Good morning, rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Today is February the 4th, 2025, and we're glad and thankful to have you here. Trump administration officials are weighing executive orders to dismantle the education department as part of the campaign by billionaire Elon Musk and his allies to shrink federal agencies and slash the size of the government workforce. Yes. I'm so glad and thankful to have all of our friends here joining us live on the Wake Up America show. Make sure you click that like button. We'd be glad and thankful to have you become a regular guest if you click the follow button. So thankful to have all of you here. If you click the follow button, you'll get updates whenever we go live. We'll be very grateful for it. There's so many incredible news stories. And I have been covering the news professionally, amateurishly, sophomorically for well over a decade now. Broadcast, radio, television, live news, live to tape. I have never experienced anything like this. So I am a seasoned veteran when it comes to covering news. And I got to tell you, normally it's fairly easy. Well, I say fairly easy, but for someone who's experienced, to put together a news package for a 2-hour show and say, you know, we've pretty much covered all of the big news that our audience really wants to hear. They're going to hear everything that they need to hear and know for the day in this 2-hour segment, this 2-hour show that we've put together. And I have to say, this is the first time in my career, 2-decade-long career covering news, that I have ever been incapable of covering everything that's happening that I think it is that you need to know. So I'm going to do my absolute best today to share with you everything that I think you need to know that I can fit into a 2-hour newscast. It used to be that I had a billion clips to share with you, but now with Trump's victories coming in every 10 minutes, I'll see a headline that is an unbelievable, incredible story. It's impossible for me to be able to get it all for you. But since the White House is competent these days, they have a press secretary that can sum these things up for me.
We are 2 weeks in, and President Trump is already delivering big wins for the American people. Let's go through the facts. On the border, President Trump declared a national emergency, deployed the military, ended catch and release, and reinstated Remain in Mexico. And already, illegal crossings are down 95%. We are resuming construction of the border wall, and Colombia's president is now offering his own plane for deportation of illegal Colombian immigrants. On the economy and energy, President Trump unleashed American energy, declared a national energy emergency, and killed Joe Biden's radical electric vehicle mandate. Wall Street is booming. AI investments skyrocketed to
Wall Street booming. Not sure about that one. We'll talk about the tariffs a little bit later.
$100 billion, and there's $20 billion flowing into U.S. data centers across our country. President Trump is restoring law and order. He labeled the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and he is deporting criminal illegal aliens, and he signed the Laken Riley Act into law. Draining the swamp, President Trump signed more than 45 executive orders. DEI has been purged from the government and our military, and lazy federal workers have been ordered back to the office.
I love that she makes a point to say it's not just federal workers returning back to the office. Lazy federal workers returning back to the office.
And when it comes to free speech and transparency, President Trump took 12 times more press questions than Joe Biden did in a week, reinstated 440 silenced journalists to the press room, and ended government censorship. Promises made, promises kept, and we're just getting started.
And the home of the brave. I love it. So many wonderful and exciting things here to talk about on the Wake Up America show. But the number one story, I think, is that Trump advisors are weighing a plan to dismantle the federal Department of Education. It's beautiful. El Salvador's Nayib Bukele meets with Marco Rubio yesterday and offers to house not only detainees of illegal immigrants returning to El Salvador, but actually offers to house at a cost prisoners of the American prison system. Excuse me? What? We're going to speak to Antonio Martinez about that and the immigration question here on the Wake Up America show. We'll talk to him about the 14th Amendment and other things. Tony Martinez will join us to talk about the immigration question, talk about Nayib Bukele, a little Javier Milei perhaps, who is himself now inspired by what Elon Musk is doing in the Department of USAID. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the Department of Education potentially being shut down, or at least large swaths of it being shut down, with Corey DeAngelis this morning on the Wake Up America show. It's going to be a beautiful show. Do Canadians hate Americans? One person says yes. A meme that went around online for a few days showed a American who is looking at a Canadian with seething rage. And listen, when I say it's a million billion clips, it's more than a million billion clips. It's more like 100 million billion clips. And so I'm like scrolling through everything that I have right now. I mean, I got Ron Paul talking about what's happening here. I've got the Nayib Bukele. I've got liberal tears. What else do we have? Scott Jennings owning the libs. I've got the 20-year-old Zoomers who are behind Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, hacking and slashing, like genius kids from Nebraska going in and doing incredible work. These are kids who they used AI to decipher papyrus scrolls. Screw it, I'll just pull it from this over here and show you. This is a meme that went around. Here we go. Clips. Oh no, not that. Don't show that. There we go. Didn't want to dox any of my sweet followers and friends for texting into the show at 573-319-1586. Again, that's 573-319-1586. Apologize for the language that you see on your screen. It is the internet after all. But this was a meme that had been going viral showing the United States looking at their neighbor Canada and saying, I effing hate you and hope you die. But is it really like this? Canada, I'm literally the best neighbor one could possibly hope for. I just want to be friends and trade stuff. But Pagliacci the Hated says, so funny that people think this, because anyone who's actually lived in Canada can tell you it's the exact opposite. Canadians have an unrelenting hatred of Americans to the point that Not America has become the singular defining cornerstone of Canadian identity. Ask any Canadian what a Canadian is, and some platitude like, we're not American, is bound to be vocalized. Canadians have no positive identity construct where they have created an identity based on what they are, because they do not know what they are. They have a negative identity vacuum where they only exist in contrast with what they are not. And the only thing they know for sure is that they are not American. Meanwhile, the average American probably has no idea where Canada even is, which is kind of sad if you think about that, let alone cares about it to the point where he would base his entire cultural identity on not being from there. Okay, point, good point. Taken, yes. Not just that, they don't know where they are, but that Canada that Americans don't even think about Canada here. Canadian TV a couple of months ago called it.
Mr. President, I must admit I was worried that you were going to try to humiliate me.
I would never embarrass you, Justin. Are you kidding me?
Thank you, Donald.
Now I want to see you eat it.
Excuse me? The hamburger.
The Big Mac, the president of all burgers. I'm going to make you eat it like a dog with no hands.
Mr. President, I have self-respect.
Not so much, to be honest. I mean, he came like a dog, didn't he? He really did.
Mon ami, I come to you not on bended knee, but as an equal.
30% tariff.
My father taught me to
50% tariff.
Okay, we Canadians are a hearty lot.
60% tariff.
For Canada! I'm a hungry little puppy. I'm so hungry for my puppy chow.
All right, that's enough, Justin. I won't impose a tariff. I can't. I'm not even the president yet, am I? What a loser. Now let's DJ.
Can't play that, of course. No. Can't hear the YMCA. Ilhan Omar and her cronies yesterday showed up to the U.S. aid office trying to be in. Let me in, or I'll blow your house down and my brother.
I lived in a refugee camp for 4 years as a child surviving civil war. It is the essential programs that U.S. aid provided that kept my family and I fed and safe. It is the resources that so many people around the world rely on. And it is our soft power. Oftentimes, people interact with our country through the military. That does not create love for us, and it certainly does not keep us safe. When the world interacts with Americans through programs that provide essential need, they get to see the heart and compassion of the American people. What Trump and Elon and all of their cronies are trying to do is take away the constitutional power of Congress. We get to decide. We have the power of the purse.
No, so you don't understand is that Elon Musk has been granted authority as a temporary government employee. They have these positions where it's like you can be a temporary government employee for like 150 days. And so Elon Musk has actually taken on a role in an official government capacity. You know that if Ilhan Omar and Chuck Schumer are freaking out about what Donald Trump is doing, if you know that if they're overly concerned about USAID, that where there is smoke, there is fire.
We also know this is just the beginning. If Doge attacks USAID today, then you can be sure they'll move on to another target tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the Postal Service or the IRS or even the Social Security Administration. They could be next. Or maybe our national security agencies. We also know this is just the beginning. If Doge
Wait a minute, excuse me? Did he just say what I thought he said?
attacks USAID today, then you can be sure they'll move on to another target tomorrow.
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be the Postal Service or the IRS or even the Social Security Administration. They could be next.
Oh my God.
Or maybe our national security agencies. Yes. We also know this is just the beginning.
Or maybe our national security agencies. Don't threaten me with a good time. What now? Here's the thing. Why are they freaking out? Where is U.S. aid money going?
And here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look. Because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you.
Unbelievable! Huge victories every day. We stray closer to God's light. Jen Psaki also incensed over the Elon Musk takeover.
Elected.
He come in like a wrecking ball.
Best friend, Elon Musk.
I never felt so hard in love.
His latest target was the United States Agency for International Development. And that agency is the one that not only leads on humanitarian assistance around the world.
Humanitarian assistance, like $32,000 for a transgender comic book.
But also works to combat corruption and foreign aid programs. It's a big part of what they do. I kind of see how that could make Elon Musk a bit uncomfortable. So what do you think he did? You may already know. Well, he removed two of the top leaders of the organization who wouldn't do his bidding over the weekend. And then overnight, last night, employees received an email ordering them not to come into the office today. They weren't given a reason or any sort of rationale. They were basically just told not to show up. Many were even blocked from the system and locked out of their email accounts. We're also seeing something similar happening in the Treasury Department. In the last few days, Elon Musk and his Doge pals have been granted access to the federal payment system that handles paychecks to federal workers, Social Security checks, tax refunds, and basically incredibly sensitive personal information about anyone who gets those payments. This takeover is also happening across the Office of Personnel Management, where Musk has gained unprecedented access to federal human resources databases that house sensitive personal information about millions of federal employees. And I'm going to talk with the reporter who broke that story today about what else he's learned later in the show. Now, I'm going to just be straight with you about all this. I mean, in the face of all of this and much more,
whenever a Democrat says, I'm going to be straight with you about all this, you know that some lies are coming.
Happened the last 2 weeks. There's not always been the type of clear, consistent, and united response from leading Democrats that I believe, and you probably believe, the moment requires. Yes, there have been some powerful voices out there in the confirmation hearings especially, but overall, it's taken far too long, in my view, for elected officials to respond boldly. And when they do respond, those responses aren't often specific enough.
Okay, maybe she did actually tell the truth for the first time there. Ron Paul weighs in. It's 5 minutes, a little bit too long of a clip there. There was the video of the Canadians. Okay, so hold on. So are we going to switch to the tariffs, the Canadian boycott? No.
The first term of the USAID was something that you liked in some respects.
I love the concept of it.
Had some programs.
Sure. I love the concept, but they turned out to be radical left lunatics. And the concept of it is good, but it's all about the people.
Boy, the Trump administration in the first term and the third term are completely different. Don't you agree?
We have breaking news now. The NPR senior editor who revealed to the world the invasive liberal bias at NPR has just resigned. Now, remember, we first reported to you Uri Berliner was suspended for 5 days without pay this week. And that happened after he wrote the article that you see there, the headline of In the Free Press last week.
Now, this is interesting because the Doge subcommittee has invited NPR and the PBS chiefs to testify on their federal funding about systemically biased content. The Doge House chair, Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, has invited NPR's Catherine Maher and PBS's Paula Kerger to testify next month.
Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel. Mike, this was quick.
No doubt about it, Harris. After those public comments about pervasive left-wing bias at NPR, now the senior editor, Uri Berliner, writing on X, quote, I'm resigning from NPR, a great American institution where I have worked for 25 years. I don't support calls to defund NPR. I respect the integrity of my colleagues and wish...
Well, I appreciate that, Uri Berliner. Thank you for telling the truth, but I'm afraid we're going to have to just defund NPR. Oh, and the federal agents are unhappy. They're quite unhappy. They're crying, as a matter of fact. Feds are crying. They're crying at work. LGBT white woman managers married to a woman are crying in a meeting at work. Employee at the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention posted, yesterday we got an email from the administration that said we had to remove all references to gender identification, and that this was an attempt to, quote, defend women. We were also instructed to remove any pronouns from our signature lines, and today we had to scrub all of the websites that dealt with DEI or gender identification or that link to outside sites mentioning such. We were even instructed to remove the word gender and replace it with sex. Oh, it's too good. It's too good. Which, of course, was awkward in certain instances. My manager is an LGBT white woman married to a woman. Yesterday, she was crying in a meeting while at the same time instructing us to follow these orders. Oh, here we go. Enjoy. Here's a teacher being forced to take down her flag.
'Cause I'm getting pretty fucking tired.
Sorry for the cursing. Good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. I'm so glad and thankful to have you here. Every day we stray closer to God's light. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, like a wrecking ball, bringing in dramatic, sweeping changes faster than anyone in the press can keep up, including me. And I'm reading the news 24/7. But we bring to you the absolute best in what's happening in the news around the world that affects you, mostly American citizens, and I think one Canadian, maybe a few Argentines, liberty-loving Canadians. And a few Argentines. We talk about the big news stories. We sometimes goof around. We have great guests. Today we have Tony Martinez and we have Corey DeAngelis. Tony, if you're there, if you're listening, I sent you a text message. Please send me a text in response. We got to shuffle around the timing of the interviews this morning because I accidentally double booked. I'm an idiot. Suzanne Lambert, who has identified herself as a Regina George, that's a mean girl, has amassed a big following on TikTok where she's encouraging other Democrats to be meaner. Yes, no joke. The Democrats have decided that they haven't been mean enough and that they want to get more liberal white women to be total bitches in order to try and win elections. What do you think? Think it's going to work?
Not all of us were meant to be Michelle Obama, Jack Schlossberg liberals. Some of us were meant to be Regina George liberals. Y'all did it your way, and we're doing it our way.
Regina George liberals. That was viral TikTok influencer Suzanne Lambert explaining and defending her growing celebrity as a, quote, this is the quote, mean Democrat. Lambert has built a following, you should know, of more than 500,000 on TikTok. Her videos have been viewed millions of times and significantly garnered more than 10 million likes. Here is one of her most popular, where she mocks Republicans who criticize her, and she does it through kind of a makeup tutorial.
Rather than using a brush, we're actually just gonna apply directly to the skin and use our hands. That way it's streaky, it doesn't blend well. Now I've got my driest mascara that I'm just gonna kind of make sure you get a little on the eyelids too, and don't clean it up. Just for the full effect. Let me know how I did.
How'd you do? Well, I don't really fret over that whole eye makeup thing, but Suzanne Lambert is with us to explain.
This is the Democrats' response, by the way. Austin, why are we watching this clip? Is it really that important news-wise? I want you to see what the Democrats are doing to fight back. This is what they're doing. Makeup tutorials and saying they're going to be mean.
Her journey. And one of the things I want to ask you about, first, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for being here.
Me.
I read that you in high school were involved in a Republican club. Talk to my audience about the journey from there.
This is the legacy media, by the way. CBS Morning News. There it is. This is what Major Garrett has been reduced to covering, from Fox News to interviewing the rise of the Regina George liberal, acting as a mouthpiece for the left to try and advance their propaganda.
No.
Yeah, sure. Not only was I involved, I was the president.
Okay.
In fact, I grew up in...
So she was a Republican, president of the Republican Club. There's so many like these. These are like the Meghan McCains, right?
In a town where that was kind of the norm. It was very conservative, right? That's all that I really knew. Most of influences around me were very conservative.
We're not watching 6 minutes of this, but
historically, from Democrats, from other liberals, and after the election, all the messaging was around how we're going to get through this with love and peace and kindness. And sure, those things are true, but I was like, I can't do another 4 years of this, especially given everything they're doing.
You're a little low on the peace and joy part, right?
I mean, yeah, and I think too that
this is the legacy news. This is what they've been reduced to. It's beautiful. In a similar vein, here's how the Democrats are feeling these days about their actual prospects.
How the hell did Donald Trump figure out the mainstream media is the fringe and the fringe is now the mainstream? How the hell did Donald Trump figure out? I mean, Joe Rogan is obvious, right? Like, we knew the guy had a big audience. It's not like we were like stunned, but like, how the hell was he, the 78-year-old guy who doesn't even have a computer and still like writes handwritten notes? How did he become the guy who cracked the code on, to your point, running a cultural, I don't even want to say campaign, running
It was a movement. Look,
Movement, heading a cultural movement versus a campaign.
Every one of your people knows Elon. Listen. Yeah, so I mean, everybody keeps, I mean, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that how can Donald Trump? Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
Court, the popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime. And we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots to ordinary people.
You're totally right.
Oh, yes. Good morning, pineapples.
Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice.
Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Nice to see Jam. We going to be hanging out in Washington. 6'7", weighs a king ton. Welcome, Grizz Cheese, LW78, Trey, OK, Steelbringer, Luke Sacker, Brandon Meyer, Quest Fanning, BB for Liberty, and all of our friends hanging out over on the Wake Up America show live stream this morning. Good morning, everybody. Don't forget, if you haven't yet, click the like button underneath the feed. And if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show, do click that follow button as well. We'd love to have you be a regular guest of the Wake Up America show. So if you click follow, you'll be able to find us when we go live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's been a great show so far, and we've got lots more great show to go. We're going to have Tony Martinez at 8 a.m. Central Time. We're going to talk to him a little bit about the offer from Nayib Bukele after his meeting with Marco Rubio to take in American prisoners and immigrants. Kind of a fascinating story. I saw Eric Prince in a somewhat unrelated note. Eric Prince, the guy who was the head of formerly Blackwater, big Ron Paul donor and supporter. He actually offered to the U.S. government yesterday to take on letters of marque and reprisal against the drug cartels, which is funny because if for some reason Donald Trump decides to go the constitutional route in fighting the cartels and use letters of marque and reprisal, giving them to Eric Prince, then that will mean that Donald Trump will essentially have implemented almost my entire campaign platform from my 2016 presidential campaign, except for the penny plan. So I guess that means I won. I mean, there's so much winning. I want to invite you all today, if you haven't, to do a little shoppity around the Grift Shop. There's so many incredible new items over at the shop, and if you're not constantly visiting, you might miss out on some of the incredible deals and steals going on today. The Gulf of America collection has become a runaway hit, specifically our Gulf of America beach towel with the sharkity shark. Baby shark, do-do-do-do. Baby shark. What's up, Dad Bod Baboon? Hello, good morning, Nelson65. As they say, I'm neither a pine nor an apple. No, but you are a beautiful man. Good morning, Commode Bear. Yes, Gulf of America merch flying off the shelves. I bought myself one of these nice Gulf of America shark tumblers. Going to be coming in the mail hopefully soon. The Gulf of America beach towel is the #1 hot seller. We also have fanny packs you could take to the beach. The candles, also a surprisingly hot seller. Gulf of America shark tumblers and beach towels, pillows, candles, all kinds of fun stuff. Just click on the Sharky Shark over here, and you can see our full collection: hats, mugs, slides like sandals and things, as well as tote bags, beach bags, onesies. Do you support these onesies? And a nice little variety of products there. You can get those exclusively, because me and BB for Liberty designed these suckers ourselves, at 4libertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Check it out. And while you're there, grab yourself a box of our delicious revolutionary roasts, over at forlibertyshop.com. Again, that's the number 4libertyshop.com. We also have our new delicious line of 4 Liberties. The number 4 Liberty. You can get those again exclusively at forlibertyshop.com. We've got our Founding Flavors coffee. Right there is Benjamin Franklin's Electric Elixir. And then we've also got our 4 Liberty there, which you see is the Boston Harbor Black in between a Winston Churchill. So check it out. forlibertyshop.com. Go shopping. There you go. Jam says, I had to inform my parents who live at the Villages what upside down pineapples were. That's so funny because my father-in-law came to visit this last weekend. And just out of nowhere, at one point we're hanging out and he goes,
Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice.
and we all started laughing because he was watching the show every once in a while, and I had to explain to my father-in-law what the upside down pineapples were on a cruise, which, you know what, we're not going to get into because it's a morning show, it's a family show. I'm going to stick to family topics. Good morning, pineapples. Guess who won the tariff war yesterday? I did. I know many of you earlier in the chat were like, oh, Austin, yeah, you were against the tariffs. And so now can't you see that you were wrong and that the tariffs were a good thing and that we won the tariff battle? No, actually, I won the tariff battle because I was advocating against the tariffs the whole time. And as of yesterday, Donald Trump dropped the tariffs. So I win. So we'll have more free trade, at least for 30 days. Take a listen.
What I'd like to see Canada become our 51st state. We give them, look, what I'd like to see Canada become our 51st state. We give them protection, military protection. We don't need them to build our cars. I'd rather see Detroit or South Carolina or any one of our, Tennessee, any one of our states build the cars. They could do it very easily. We don't need them for the cars. We don't need them for lumber. We don't need them for anything. We don't need them for energy. We have more energy than they do. We don't need them for energy.
Canada is our leading energy supplier from where we get energy from around the world, though, by the way, FYI. We have pipelines that run through Canada.
So I say, why are we doing this? Why are we willing to lose between $100 billion and $200 billion a year? We don't need them. As a state.
Interesting. So the argument about tariffs, people are wondering, oh, you won? You won? Yes, of course, I absolutely won because the point was to not have tariffs, right? We don't want to have tariffs. And what I think is fascinating about this, the whole concept, is that there were multiple different arguments that people were making in favor of tariffs. And the one argument that I acknowledged, and I did this like 2 or 3 weeks ago when it came to tariffs, I had a tweet that went viral when I talked about this, that it seems as if the point of tariffs is to threaten tariffs, but then not enact the tariffs, right? So the point of tariffs is to get more free trade, which is, of course, what I wanted. But if you actually enact the tariffs, then that would be bad. But the arguments that I was debunking in the conversations that we were having yesterday, the heated, hotter to the caller conversations, were that some people were arguing that they would bring back domestic manufacturing, spoiler alert, they won't, or that they would protect American industry, spoiler alert, they won't, or that they would, help some industry over another. They won't. They don't. They won't make Americans more prosperous. They'll just be another kick in the nuts to people who are trying to crawl their way out of poverty and who have decided not to pull a W-2 every 2 weeks, right? The point of the tariffs was not to have tariffs. The point of the tariffs was not to have tariffs. It was to threaten the tariffs and then not have the tariffs. So in essence, Donald Trump is bluffing. In other words, he actually wants other countries to drop their tariffs so that we can have more free trade, which is, for me, a free trader, a victory. Yes. Yes, if the point of threatening tariffs is to have fewer tariffs, then you're tacitly acknowledging that it's better to have free trade. We want then the arguments that are being made that tariffs are in our economic best interests, meaning actually laying tariffs, those are moot, right? Some people were saying that you're un-American if you don't support tariffs and laying out the tariffs because it will protect American industries. But then once Donald Trump dropped the tariffs, all of a sudden they were saying, yay, I'm so happy and thankful. But wait a minute. Weren't you supposed, you were saying that we should put the tariffs in, right? Or were you part of those people who were being deceptive? Were you also bluffing? If you were bluffing, if you were only being deceptive because you actually wanted more free trade, those people get a pass. Those people I can understand. If you're economically illiterate and you actually believe the BS and the lies that tariffs would actually help our economy, well, then that's a completely separate argument. That's a completely separate argument. And in that case, now that the tariffs have been dropped, you should be outraged, right? Because you think that the tariffs would be in our best interests and that we should have the tariffs. But instead, what did we do? We dropped the tariffs. So in the end, libertarians like myself won the argument and the day because no tariffs. God. It's hard being right all the time. We're going to speak to Tony Martinez this morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. Tony. Talk to him about Nayib Bukele. He's offered the United States of America the opportunity to outsource part of its prison system. Boy, the left is going to be apoplectic about this once they get around to attacking this 4 or 5 days after it's already happened, because they're still fighting the USAID fight battle, which is pretty much almost already won. And next, they're going to move on to the Department of Education battle, which is going to be won by the time they get around to it. And then they'll have to move on to Nayib Bukele. The Trump administration is moving too fast for the left to be able to keep up. So we'll talk to Tony Martinez about the Nayib Bukele, Marco Rubio factor, Javier Milei, immigration. That's coming up at 8 a.m. Central Time, 20 minutes from now. Then at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, so about 50 minutes from now, we're going to speak to Corey DeAngelis about the biggest, most beautiful story I might have seen in the last 2 weeks. Donald Trump advisors weigh plan to dismantle education department. It's incredible. It's the most beautiful headline I think I've seen, maybe in my life. Administration officials are discussing executive orders that could shut down key functions of the agency. Gosh, it's going to be an absolutely beautiful, beautiful day today. I can't wait to follow this story. Tomorrow morning's show might be a little rougher than today's show. I've got a little extra special event. I'm going down tonight, Tuesday night, to meet with the Ozark Film Foundry to put together the bits and pieces for the upcoming Battle of Athens battle shoot for the documentary. Moving that forward, I'm very excited to meet with the Ozark Film Foundry tonight. I'll be driving down to Springfield, Missouri. It's going to be kind of a late night for me getting back, so I'll do my best to try and put together tomorrow's show as quickly as possible. With all of the news moving around here and there, tomorrow morning's show might not be as information-packed or clip-packed as today's show. So I just want to kind of give you guys a heads up for the regular viewers that tomorrow morning's show, I might look a little rough, sound a little rough, things might be a little rough just because I've got to take a bit of a travel today to keep the documentary Bleed American, Battle of Athens moving forward. A little update on that. So much winning coming out of the White House. Libertarianism is advancing on all fronts.
There is so much good news, so much winning out of the Trump White House right now that the mainstream legacy media can't keep up with it, because President Trump is signing executive order after executive order, delivering on promise after promise, and implementing fundamental change of our bloated bureaucracy and our corrupt government here in Washington, D.C. He was given a once-in-a-generation mandate by the American people to govern and to fundamentally transform Washington, and that's exactly what he is doing. And we finally, after 4 years of chaos and mayhem and apologizing for America, have a president again in the Oval Office who is standing up for America. And this is what it looks like when you have a leader of our great nation who uses the leverage of the United States, who understands that since our nation's founding, we have been viewed as that shining light on the hill. We have been viewed, rightfully so, as the best, proudest country in the world. And President Trump is not afraid to say that or to use that for the American people's benefit. And that's why you have seen so many countries around the world in just the matter of 2 weeks cave to President Trump's demands. In the past 24 hours, you have Canada and Mexico agreeing to help secure our southern and northern borders. And these tariffs that President Trump threatened to impose on both Canada and Mexico, and they were sign, seal, deliver, I may add, those were retaliatory
retaliatory tariffs for the last 4 years of treatment by Canada and Mexico of our nation. They have allowed an unprecedented wave of illegal deadly drugs and illegal criminals on our territorial borders. And President Trump said enough is enough.
Enough is enough, right? But better to end the criminal war on drugs itself. Mandatory, obligatory Scott Jennings on CNN owning the left clip.
This Republican Party is the rule of law party. There are ways to address this. There are ways to zero out funding. There are ways to review things or change it legislatively. This is not that way. What's the rationale here?
Well, it is an entity that exists within the executive branch. That's number one. And it has often been at odds with the U.S. State Department. And that's not a good thing. As Marco Rubio said today, everything USAID does, or the bureaucracy does, needs to be aligned with the foreign policy goals of the United States. And so putting Rubio in charge of USAID today helps begin to achieve that alignment. I'm actually a supporter of American soft power. That's what we call it, soft power. I believe it's good. I believe it's often been used as a tool to help the United States combat influence from China and other adversaries around the world. But there is a difference between soft power and soft stupidity. So whether you're funding whether you're funding like DEI musical.
So I was reading there's a really great bio on Scott Jennings. I don't know if it was a Washington Post, may have been a couple of days ago. If you're interested in this guy, former Mitch McConnell staffer, George W. Bush staffer, turned super Trumper, and they did a really interesting biography on him. I'll see if I can find it.
In some country or transgender surgery somewhere or whatever, that is not what most Americans.
Not what is happening.
That is not what most Americans would say is an effective tool of U.S. foreign policy.
On everything that
I'm not USA. I have a whole list right here. I mean, if you want me to forward it to you, I will. But the reality is, we have lots of money going to projects that don't do anything for the United States.
Cut those projects. Many governments do
that.
But why
Welcome to the Republican Party. That's what we're doing.
Why are you trying? Why are you locking people out of their office? Why are you trying to tell people to stop working?
Because the bureaucracy is non-responsive.
Without the accountability
because the bureaucracy is
non-responsive. What are some of the biggest revelations that Elon Musk and Doge have revealed since they started cutting government? Musk's Doge team has been granted access to the federal payments system, which controls over $6 trillion in annual cash flow. This access was confirmed by Senator Ron Wyden, raising concerns about the safeguarding of sensitive personal data and the potential for misuse. But what was happening with it before? Allegations of fraudulent payments. Musk has claimed that payment approval officers of the Treasury were instructed to approve payments indiscriminately, which I completely believe, including to known fraudulent or terrorist groups, without ever denying a payment. In other words, they never denied a payment. They never investigated where the money was going. They just sent it out. No investigations done. No denials. Every payment approved. That's how U.S. aid worked. Within its first few days, Doge canceled approximately $420 million in government contracts, with a focus on cutting what they described as crazy DEI contracts, suggesting a significant reduction in spending related to diversity issues. Unbelievable. Things like this.
Through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
Hungry eyes. There have been discussions as well about integrating blockchain technology into government operations, beautiful things, with Doge representatives meeting with blockchain companies to evaluate technology use for government efficiency. Now, blockchain technology and government contracts have been increasingly explored for their potential to enhance efficiency and transparency and security across public sector applications. Here's an overview based on recent discussions. So several countries, including Estonia and South Korea, have tested blockchain for secure, transparent voting systems. Blockchain can offer tamper-proof vote recording, potentially enhancing trust in the electoral process. So the blockchain is public, except for the person who initiated the transaction. They would have a random code that would be assigned to them, and you would be able to ensure in real time that your vote was recorded. It's the same thing, the same way that Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies operate. So blockchain can facilitate self-sovereign identity solutions where individuals control their own personal data. And again, this is being piloted in places like Estonia for e-residency programs and could revolutionize identity verification processes. So countries like Georgia and Ukraine have implemented blockchain to manage land registries, aiming to prevent fraud and create transparent, immutable records of property ownership. Blockchain's ability to provide a secure, transparent ledger makes it ideal for tracking goods in supply chains, ensuring authenticity, and for managing public procurement to reduce corruption. If we want to reduce corruption here in the United States, we should put government transactions on the blockchain. Who's with me? There are some challenges, though, things like scalability, regulation and policy, which might come up, interoperability, but, ensuring different blockchain systems can work together. Digital divide, certain populations of people aren't able to use that technology because of, educational differences in the generations. Okay, boomers. Adoption and resistance. There could also be government agencies that might try and slow down the implementation. But there right now are explorations that are being made to track federal spending, secure data, make payments, manage buildings on the blockchain. And many countries are at various stages of pilot projects or full implementations with a focus on creating blockchain infrastructure for public sector use. I'm for it. I think it'll be good. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. You can send me a text at 573-319-1586. There we go. That's 573-319-1586. If you're watching the Wake Up America show, you can see the text line on the screen. My recommendation for regular listeners is that you just program me into your phones. That way you guys can find me more easily and just talk to me anytime. So just, put me in as like AP for Liberty or AP or Wake Up America show or, or sneering, snide, domineering, smug, smarmy, libertarian talk show host as well. That will also work. So Harlan Oki says real estate will be tied to blockchain soon. The best one is property. Learn something new every day. Don't forget, if you haven't already, please do click that like button. And in a little bit less than 10 minutes, we're going to speak to Tony Martinez, which means I'll be going to a commercial break. When we do, it's time for you to go shopping at forlibertyshop.com, guys. The sales of the Gulf of America stuff has been going just absolutely bonkers, unbelievable. But before we go to Tony Martinez to talk about Nayib Bukele and Javier Milei and immigration in the United States, and we're also going to have Corey DeAngelis to break down school choice initiatives across the country. Tennessee just had a major victory on that front. As well as potentially scrapping the Department of Education. That's going to be at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. It's just victory after victory, win after win. The second half of the show is going to be phenomenal. If you enjoyed the first half, the second half is going to be 10 times better. But before we go to that and to the commercial break, I want to introduce you to a young person who is one of the young people, the Zoomers, who is behind the Department of Government Efficiency that is actually at the front lines helping Elon Musk rein in the fraud, the waste, and the abuse. Everybody has been laughing online because the Democrats are freaking out about this shadowy group of Zoomers, these young 20, 21, 25-year-olds who are in charge of reforming the system. The Democrats are like, who are these kids? They shouldn't be in charge of Social Security payments and do all this kind of stuff. And I just laugh because I remember my 2016 presidential campaign. I was 34 years old, getting ready to turn 35 at the time. And in my presidential debate, John Stossel says, you know, he leveled a criticism at each one of us running for president, me, Gary Johnson, John McAfee, and he aimed a criticism at them that he thought was, our weak points. And for me, of course, he says, my problem with you, Austin, you're 12 years old. So I reminded him of the relative ages of the founding fathers. The Marquis de Lafayette, in 1776, the Marquis de Lafayette was 18 years old. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, I believe, at 33 years old. It was young men and women that founded this country, and as it turns out, I was correct in that presidential debate when I said that young people will restore it. Take a listen to this unbelievable kid.
Don't worry. This is what I do most of my work from. Good job of encouraging their students to think boldly, and I think that's played a pivotal role in my work on this project.
He didn't go to Harvard. He didn't go to MIT. He went to the University of Nebraska. Fantastic. You love to see it. Congratulations, kid. And do us a favor, if you can, just eliminate as much of the federal government spending as you can. We'll be right back with Tony Martinez, talk about Nayib Bukele, talk about immigration, talk about Marco Rubio becoming based and red-pilled. Too many wins. Too much winning. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show.
Tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your your principles for a cup of coffee. Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Were you exposed to hazardous materials while serving in the military and have an illness or condition as a result?
If so, you may be eligible for VA benefits and services.
Whether you need health care or want to file a disability compensation claim related to military exposures, VA is here to help.
Visit va.gov/military-exposures to learn more and apply today.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one.
Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and that's on the For Liberty Network, the home of Liberty Tonight and Culturama, two new shows that premiered this year that you can watch on our network. You can find all of our shows at forlibertynetwork.com. They're live on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Today is Tuesday, so make sure you watch Culturama at 7 p.m. Central Time tonight at rumble.com/Culturama to hear Daniela Pensac's take on things. She's Marilyn Monroe with a master's degree. She's got everything that every modern woman would want. She's got a master's degree. She's absolutely beautiful. She's got traditional conservative American values. Watch her tonight, 7 p.m. Central Time. Speaking of conservatism, Marco Rubio headed to El Salvador yesterday for a meeting with Nayib Bukele. He's becoming one of American conservatives' favorite South American leaders. Nayib Bukele is making an offer that, I don't know, can Americans refuse it? We'll talk about that with our next guest, Tony Martinez. He's an attorney, AVO awarded attorney, joining us live here on the Wake Up America show. Good morning, Tony.
All right, good morning. Hey, should I be calling you the Sundance Kid, or Sundance Liberty with that mustache? You went Robert Redford on us there.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, I appreciate it. I think my wife will get that reference. Appreciate you, Tony. Nice to see you, brother. I hope you're doing well.
Well, for anybody, go watch Rent Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and there you'll see Austin, several decades ago, running around with Paul Newman.
Good to see you, brother, man. So tell us about this meeting. Marco Rubio meets with Nayib Bukele yesterday. We really are sort of turning over a new leaf in terms of Latin American relations with the Trump administration, aren't we?
Yeah, this is really important. I mean, the good news with Secretary of State Marco Rubio being in his position is we finally are making the Western Hemisphere and Latin America a priority. And we are handling it correctly. We are strengthening our relations with our allies, and we're sending messages that is not going to be business as usual anymore with the other countries. And so what Rubio and Bukele worked out yesterday is significant because El Salvador is going to develop nuclear energy and strengthen more commercial ties. So like if you're worried about tariffs, where coffee and other things are going to come from, El Salvador can supply us. And the other important thing is that apparently there is a deal to have U.S. citizen inmates be sent to El Salvador to serve their prison time there. The only thing that gives me a pause on that is if there would be an Eighth Amendment constitutional argument raised, because there's pretty severe punishment down there. But we have the Supermax prison in Colorado, which is a pretty gnarly place for some of the worst people to be in. So it's still, all in all, it's a great development.
So the idea is that we would, for a price, we would actually export dangerous American criminals to another country. I mean, other than Guantanamo, is there a precedent for this?
I'm not aware of the precedents for it, but legally it's allowed. I mean, there are arrangements where we have with foreign prisoners, because I am aware of this, where you can make arrangements. A foreign prisoner could make arrangements if they're convicted and they serve they're serving time in the U.S. They can, if there's an agreement between that country and ours, they can make arrangements to serve their time in their country of origin. So yes, it should be able to pass muster that way. The only question I have is that the severity of the CCOT prison in El Salvador is a pretty tough place. And if you're stuck there for the rest of your life, these are really bad people, and it's got to keep them away from the rest of society.
It's an interesting, it'll be an interesting challenge. I'm sure there'll be a legal challenge to things like this, but, time will tell. I mean, what have been your thoughts in general, the incoming Trump administration in the last 2 weeks, Tony? I mean, as a conservative, more liberty Republican like myself, have you just been as thrilled as I have to see everything that's been going on?
Yeah, I mean, people have to understand, Trump is the disruptor. Okay, he's actually on a mission from God. After he was spared from that assassination attempt, I'm saying, no, this is God's plan. It's a disruption of an unexpected scale, and it actually has to happen. Otherwise, our country's going to fall apart, and it was falling apart. And so he has to apply this type of really tough, disruptive, like, I can't believe what you're saying, or, oh my God, what are you, this is crazy type of approach that actually gets people to wake up and start responding and responding to the genuine issues that are being raised. Every single issue that the president has raised are totally legitimate. We need to get our trade deficit out of deficit and into some kind of balance. We need to establish order. We need to do everything we can to have people understand that rule of law is being respected and being applied. So
some of the people who run in my circles, they say that trade deficits don't matter because they say their argument for the reason that trade deficits don't matter is that if other countries want to keep giving us goods and services and we just keep giving them worthless slips of paper, then who cares? In many ways, we're kind of ripping off the rest of the world by giving them these little bits of paper, and then they give us actual legitimate goods and services.
Well, you raise a moral issue there. I mean, if I'm giving you a worthless piece of papers and you're giving me genuine goods or services, what does that say about me thinking of what I think of you?
Well, who cares, right? We don't care what Mexico thinks of us. We don't care what Canada thinks of us.
But if we want to have good relations, and you want relations based on respect and principles, there has to be an exchange of value. So it's great that they think that our pieces of paper are worth something. And in fact, if they are, then we have a responsibility to make sure that they stay worth something because they're relying on that exchange. So this is, again, an argument to, we have to do everything we can to shore up our finances. And what the president is doing is really the only way. You cannot borrow or print money to prosperity. And this is the great deception that's been befallen on people not only here but around the world.
What are your thoughts on Trump's executive orders regarding the border and some of the we've been seeing some of the cartels actually firing shots at U.S. Border Patrol in recent weeks? I mean, it does seem as if the battle with the cartels is starting to turn more and more into a hot war, and a lot of Republicans are saying that that's probably necessary. And what are your thoughts on on the conflict escalating on the border.
Well, Tom Clancy wrote the book, the Clear and Present Danger, about a covert war against the Colombian, in this case it was the Colombian drug cartels, that did not have the tacit authority of Congress. I think we're seeing, what we will see is a version of that, only this time Congress is giving tacit authorization, and the cartels are going to discover that they are not as powerful as they think they are, because if the might of the United States armed forces are leveled against them, just the Joint Special Operations Command and all the other groups that form part of that are engaged. I mean, who knows? I mean, you can see a version of the Tom Clancy situation evolving.
So where do you think this ends? I mean, Mexico, Trump has accused the Mexican government of being a puppet government of the cartels. Of course, they've denied it, but I mean, it seems to be ostensibly true. I mean, how do we do a deal with a government that is essentially a government by proxy of a, well, I mean, they've labeled it a terrorist organization.
I think the diplomacy behind it is going to be quite direct and blunt and both hard and soft. I mean, we're basically giving Mexico time. The president Sheinbaum has said, that they're going to bring troops to the border and all of that. Well, if we see results, then the necessity to go into more tougher or surgical types of operations to, stop this. I mean, I think the conversation is either you get this under control or we're going to go in there and get this under control. This has got to stop. So do whatever you have to do to make it stop. I think that's the message that was delivered to the Mexicans.
It kind of shocking that the Trump was able to actually extract concessions from Venezuela, of all countries, that they are going to take Venezuelan illegal immigrants back to their country. I mean, it's a coup.
Well, Venezuela is another situation, and having had the privilege to work with the late Bill Richardson, who was another successful American hostage negotiator, unjust political prisoner negotiator. He wrote the book, How to Sweet Talk a Shark, and I recommend anybody read it because all of his stories are there. But one of the dynamics that goes in that must have gone into this was basically a conversation where I'm sure Ambassador Grinnell was very direct, explaining to him, listen, this is the situation, and we need to see some results here. And I think Maduro responded this way because he's probably looking for some kind of off-ramp that doesn't lead him to a jail cell or a grave, some kind of situation. And also, Maduro wants to buy himself as much time because I'm sure that he's trying to test his alliances. But regardless, we got our American prisoners freed, and we've got we actually have him accepting the return of Venezuelan migrants and criminals that are here. So that's a good thing, but it doesn't mean that we're going to be doing business with him, that things are normal. Hardly. I think he knows very clearly what we think about the situation. But again, he's thinking about his political survival. So he did what he had to do to ensure his political survival for the time being.
Tony, a headline I'm reading this morning says state and local officials are planning for potential immigration enforcement at schools. Some education boards have told schools to welcome agents. Others advise holding them off. What should we expect when it comes to seeing ICE in schools? What are they doing, and where does this all end?
I don't think it's going to be all over the country. I think when ICE goes to places, it's because they are specifically looking for someone. Okay, and so it's not like they're conducting a checkpoint. They're going there because they're looking for someone in particular. So it would behoove the authorities to cooperate with them, because ICE is going after people who have lawful deportation orders, who have been ordered removed, who have not complied with orders to remove, or who were convicted or released and then released from jail with very serious crimes. So I don't see it. I see it as being a very measured tactic. I don't see it being widespread. And the way to avoid this happening is for local authorities to talk with and cooperate with ICE. Make the process as least complicated as possible.
Tony,
position of ICE. No.
If a non-citizen comes to the United States and happens to give birth in the United States, should the child of that non-citizen be an American citizen?
The 14th Amendment, as currently interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court in the Wong case, that is the interpretation of the concept of the 14th Amendment. Yes, that child would be a U.S. citizen.
Should it be?
I think, and I've said this, and I've put it on my tweet, that I believe that President Trump is testing this because, again, this is the style. He wants to force the issue so that he can say to his supporters that, I did what I said I did. I put in an executive order. The courts are going to determine this. Now, if the courts determine that they can't do this, I predict that in the realm of some kind of grand bargain immigration law reform, because I've seen this happen when I worked on Capitol Hill behind closed doors, there will be some kind of deal saying, listen, you guys want this list of things for immigration? We want this. And by the way, on this list we want a constitutional amendment. And so Democrats, right now, the way the Senate is composed, we need 14 Democratic senators, and then we need 75 Democratic House members so we can get to the 2/3. You want all of this? This is sort of the scenario of how a deal will come down. And in that context of a deal, they'll work to change the amendment so that stops, because it is true. People come to this country to have a kid, and so that they can get the U.S. citizenship, so that they have a child who has U.S. citizenship. So
there's only one other country.
There's
in the
enough
world
of the
that
country
has
that has said that they don't like this.
Yeah. I mean, there's enough people who have said that they don't like it, but it's something unique in the world. I think there might be only one other country that does citizenship by location of the birth versus the blood of the parent, right? The lineage of the parent is what does it, right? So if you're a diplomat, right, you're exempted from that. You're not born in the, if you're born in the United States. I mean, John McCain was born overseas, right? If you're the child of a military official overseas, if you're born at Ramstein Air Force Base, you're not a German citizen. You're an American citizen because of your children, right? But I mean, it does create a really negative, terrible incentive for people to take dangerous trips and come to the United States. Do you think that it does more harm than good, Tony?
I think that you do have to consider that, yes, it does create, it can definitely create more harm than good. But the fact is, people do it. It's another way. It's actually, in a way, it's a tribute to the United States that people would go to desperate lengths to get to our country because they know what the possibility of America is. You know, that's the flip side of this.
Spoken like a true diplomat, Tony Martinez.
Well, listen, as you see here in my office, I have a round table, and life is not a rectangular or square. It's more like a circle. And in order to get your point across, you have to be able to see a situation from multiple sides. And then you can find areas of commonality and you can come to some kind of agreement. That's the art of compromise and a deal.
Tony Martinez, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we let you go today?
Well, I'll be talking about soon, and hope to announce I started a dietary supplement company. It's where the metaphor behind it is the great composers, masterpiece music as being the metaphors for good health. We'll have more about it. It's called Symphonic Health. You can follow me on Twitter at USLATAM Envoy, US Latin American Envoy, sort of my name, and it's. Looking forward to joining you and the rest of the group here in Washington in May.
That's right. We'll see Tony Martinez on the AP DC Liberty Tour. So don't forget to get your tickets because they are selling faster than we expected. You can get your tickets.
Hey, and I want an autograph from the Sundance Kid.
You got one at get them at forlibertyshop.com. Get those tickets for the AP DC Liberty Tour May 1st to the 3rd. Everybody say thank you, Tony, for joining us live. It really is a busy lawyer.
Thank you, Austin. God bless everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you very much,
Take
Tony.
care.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
And one other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work and needs back to the states. We want them to run the education of our children because they'll do a much better job of it. You can't do worse. We spend more money per pupil by 3 times than any other nation, and yet we're absolutely at the bottom. We're one of the worst. So you can't do worse. We're going to end education coming out of Washington, D.C. We're going to close it up, all those buildings all over the place, and you have people that in many cases hate our children. We're going to send it all back to the states.
Oh, so exciting. I'm so exciting. The Donald Trump administration is weighing executive actions to dismantle the education department as part of the campaign by Elon Musk and his allies to shrink federal agencies and slash the size of the government workforce. The Department of Education is saying, kill, kill, kill. Officials are discussing an executive order that would shut down all functions of the agency that aren't written explicitly into statute or move certain other functions to other departments. The order would call for developing a legislative proposal to abolish the department, the people said. Trump's advisors are debating the specifics of the order and the timing, a step towards fulfilling a Trump campaign promise to eliminate the Department of Education. Oh my God, it's happening.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm.
Oh, baby. So great. So guess what? I have got for you the best guests. Nobody gets the better guests. I've got for you Corey DeAngelis. He is the king of all school choice initiatives. We're going to talk about abolishing the Federal Department of Education, 1. We're going to talk about school choice initiatives across the country, 2, and Dos B. Quiz will be joining us, right? The one who just posted the American flag there in the chat. Quest Fanning will be there. Dad Bod Baboon will be there. Oh, Fook will be there. Quantum Kitty will be there. I'm glad you're back, Quantum Kitty. Please forgive me for yesterday. Mind Art will be there. Thank you for the Rumble rant. Whitey White 14, Luke Sacker. Nobody's leaving. We'll be right back with Corey DeAngelis on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Go shopping. ForLibertyShop.com. tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's revolutionary roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's patriotic perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. That's on the 4 Liberty Network. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Click the like button if you haven't already. If today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, then click the follow button underneath the Rumble video feed. You'll see the follow button right next to the like button. When you click the follow button, you will get a notification whenever we go live. But after a while, you'll become a regular guest, and you'll just know that every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, you will be here with me, AP, and friends, talking about all the latest and greatest news in liberty. And boy, are we talking about a lot. Every day, victory after victory after victory, because of what you, the people, have done to make America great again. Give yourselves a pat on the back. I know you all voted for him. Donald Trump's administration announces that they are looking at executive orders to begin the process of scrapping the Department of Education on the federal level. And not only is that just a victory in and of itself, right? But there will be more victories coming. Tennessee just passed their own education choice bill. Now we're turning our eyes to Texas to focus on school choice in Texas. Well, what about Missouri? You know what? I need an expert on this because I'm not an expert, right? I'm just a regular guy who talks to exceptional people, like my next guest, Corey DeAngelis, joining us live here on the Wake Up America show. Good morning, Corey, and welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Austin. It's a great time to be an education freedom advocate. Thanks for having me.
How do you feel about the potential executive order that might be forthcoming that would start the process of scrapping the Federal Department of Education?
Oh, it's fantastic. All of this news is great, Austin. We're winning so much, I'm almost getting tired of winning. We're going to make education great again, and we're going to return to the golden age of education and have freedom in America. It's great. But look, this executive order would be a huge win. Getting rid of the department is a heavy task. It's a big one. It shouldn't be very difficult, but the reality is that it is. It would be fantastic because this is an unconstitutional waste of time and money. It was created in 1979 as a payoff by Jimmy Carter to the teachers union. The National Education Association gave him an endorsement. It's the largest labor union in the country. It has spent nearly $2 trillion since its inception, and outcomes haven't gotten any better. In fact, they've gotten worse. And now we spend about $20,000 per student per year in government-run schools today. I will say this executive order, there's only so much that a president can do. He can't just snap his fingers and totally get rid of the department. There's two pieces that of this executive order from what I've read through the rumor mill, because I haven't seen the text of the order yet, but people are saying that it's a two-step process. One would be to instruct the Department of Education on how they could basically reduce its influence without cutting the department altogether. And then secondly would be a longer-term plan to scrap it altogether and what would happen at that point. So I think it's more likely that instead of it being killed altogether, it would be more of like death by 1,000 cuts, which would still be a win, a step in the right direction. From what I can tell, abolishing the department and getting rid of it entirely would require an act of Congress, and it might need 60 votes in the Senate because of the filibuster that they have in the Senate. Republicans have a majority. They have 53 votes. They don't have 60. So you'd have to get some Democrats who are open to the idea on board. I don't know. They're owned by the teachers unions. But Randy Weingarten did say on MSNBC after the election, after Trump won, that her members, quote, don't really care whether they have a Department of Education or not. So if that's true, okay, well, let's call her on her bluff and maybe try to get some Democrats to vote for. There's a bill right now to do it in Congress as well. It's called the Returning Education to the States Act. It's by Mike Rounds, a Republican out of South Dakota. So I think that's where most of the magic would happen, through a bill like that. But this is good. This is, Trump using the bully pulpit effectively, and also getting the conversation started and outlining a plan to reduce the influence. Even if we can't get rid of it through Congress, let's try to move in that direction as much as we can through reducing funding, which they're already doing. I mean, he had an executive order on getting rid of DEI out of federal agencies, which was another win. The Department of Education already put out a press release saying that they're cutting millions of dollars in funding for DEI initiatives. So lots of victories.
Yeah, big victories. Do you think that the Trump administration's executive orders regarding the Department of Education will be substantive enough to make major changes, that there would be real improvements, that we could say measurable improvements that could come from executive orders?
It depends what the executive order looks like and what exactly he can do without Congress. I mean, if the bill passes through Congress, I think that's an easy victory, and we can say there'll be measurable wins, because you'd have more money going back to the states to spend as they see fit on education. You would cut out wasteful spending with useless bureaucrats in D.C. They have about 4,400 people who work at the Department of Education. What do? I don't really know. They put strings attached to your funding currently and tell you what to do with it, and then they pocket most of it and don't do much throughout the day. So that would save more money, give that back to the taxpayers. You'd have more local control, and any vital functions under the department, which, we can argue whether they're vital or not, but the bill in Congress right now to do so by Mike Rounds would move those functions to other departments. So, for example, enforcement of special needs laws when it comes to civil rights protections would move under the Department of Justice. Special needs programs under the Department of Education would move under the Department of Health and Human Services. Pell Grants and federal student loans would move under the Treasury Department. I don't think we should have federal student loans, but This bill is more politically feasible than just getting rid of everything and not moving it to other departments. So the executive order, look, I haven't seen it, but it probably doesn't have like seismic impact, alone. And that's just the nature of how we have limited authority under executive orders to do a whole lot. But it's still good news because it gets that conversation going and at least takes us in that direction. I could be wrong. It could be that there's, a lot that they can do beyond what I know. So we're kind of in a holding pattern right now to see what it really looks like. And we'll have to see. And the other thing that's being talked about right now is that the timing of this. Some people are like, is it going to happen tomorrow? They're in my inbox asking if it was going to happen today. And the theory is that it probably wouldn't happen until after the confirmation hearings for Linda McMahon for Secretary of Education, because it would get really awkward if they did this executive order and then she tried to get confirmed afterwards. It might make things a little messy.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Well, then let's focus on things that we might have a little bit more power over. Let's talk about what's happening in the states, specifically in Texas. I'd like to play a clip for you, Corey, and have you react to it. This is the chair of the Texas House Democrats talking about parents sending their kids to private school and his opinion of that. Take a listen.
How do we tell people we're going to take your money and give it to rich people so they can send their kids to private school, so they don't have to have their kids with your kids?
That is the chair of the Texas House Democrats. He just said that parents send their kids to private school so they don't have to have their kids with your kids. Your reaction?
That's peak projection because he went to private school himself and he currently sends his kids to private school. So are you telling on yourself, Gene Wu? Total hypocrisy. And this isn't a secret. I mean, he has admitted on X that he sends his kids to private school on multiple occasions, but he just couldn't let it go. He had to maximize his virtue signaling at that press conference with zero self-awareness. He said the quiet part out loud. He's basically telling on himself he doesn't want his kids around your kids. And he doesn't want kids to get vouchers so that they can be around his kids. That's what it appears to be. He said the quiet part out loud, and that's this is maximum hypocrisy. School choice for me, but not for thee. Total elitism on the part of Gene Wu. And he's the chair of the Texas House Democrats. I will say, Austin, also, there was a vote in the Senate Education Committee last week to pass universal school choice. It passed easily, 9-2. All Republicans in favor, 2 Democrats opposed to it. It's probably going to pass the full Senate tomorrow in Texas pretty easily. But the 2 Democrats who voted against it, they both sent their kids to private school too. It's a never-ending story of hypocrisy by these elected officials who support school choice when it comes to their own families. And I don't blame them for that. They should seek out the best education for their own kids, but then they turn around, pull the ladder up from behind themselves and fight against school choice for others.
Texas, I mean, Tennessee is moving forward. It sounds like, pretty big victory there, but do we expect Texas to follow Tennessee's lead?
I think so. So yeah, Tennessee became the 13th state to pass universal school choice in the past 4 years alone. We've had more advancement in the past 4 years than the preceding 4 decades on the issue of school choice. I wish Milton Friedman were alive today to see his ideas coming to fruition. And my home state of Texas is teed up to be number 14. We have the votes in the Senate. It's going to pass this week. I know that's going to happen. And then the House, They killed it last year. Enough rhinos joined all the Democrats to vote against their own party platform issue of school choice. But then the primaries happened and 2/3 of those rhinos lost their seats, which was a political earthquake in Texas. You just do the simple math based on last year's vote. We now have the votes for universal school choice in the House. The Speaker, Dustin Burrows, who replaced Dade Phelan, who barely won re-election in the primary cycle. Dustin Burrows voted for school choice last year. He admitted on a panel a few days ago that the House does have the votes for universal school choice. And the speaker also signed a pledge to pass universal school choice. And we all know Governor Abbott's a big supporter of education freedom. He is the one that has been spearheading the effort on universal school choice in Texas over the past few years. So it looks like it's going to happen. It'll be the biggest state with universal school choice. Everything's bigger in Texas. And 10% of kids in the nation reside in Texas at the K through 12 level. So that'll be the biggest expansion of school choice in U.S. history in one bill. So I'm excited to watch that happen.
And one of the big reasons that you're doing this is because looking at the nation's report card, reading scores, math scores, how are we looking?
It's horrible. There's been decades of learning loss since 2019, partially because the teachers' unions fought to keep the schools closed. There was mental health issues associated with those school closures. There were social issues, but there were academic losses that were tragic, and they still haven't rebounded. And guess what, Austin? This is after we have depleted the $190 billion that Congress allocated to K-12 education starting in 2020. So we've spent more than we ever have before. Outcomes have fallen to the lowest point in decades in math and reading. Guess what? The Catholic schools didn't lose any ground academically. They were open. The private schools have to operate in a market where the customers can take their money somewhere else. So they have to listen to those people instead of labeling them as domestic terrorists like we saw with the public school system when parents were upset about critical race theory and divisive ideology and radical left Marxism in the schools. So when you can vote with your feet, you have the strongest form of accountability that exists. And we now spend over $20,000 per kid per year. The amount that we dedicated, $190 billion to have this kind of COVID relief for the schools, it didn't improve outcomes. They used it to hire more people. It's become more of a jobs program for adults than an education initiative for kids. But the U.S., that was more than the U.S. dedicated to rebuild Europe after World War II in the Marshall Plan. This is a ton of money. And if that doesn't prove that money doesn't improve outcomes, I don't know what does. It's a bottomless pit. They're burning your taxpayer dollars. They're not spending it on education. It's going towards administrative bloat and people like Randy Weingarten, the union boss, who make over $500,000 a year. And ultimately that money goes to Democrat campaign coffers. It's a money laundering operation, and we should put it to an end once and for good.
Amen. Corey DeAngelis joining us live here on the Wake Up America show. So just whispering sweet nothings into his microphone there. He's a school choice evangelist, a senior fellow at the American Culture Project, senior advisor at Accuracy Media, the author of the book, The Parent Revolution, which you can get at many fine bookstores. Donald J. Trump wrote a blurb for it, calls him a fighter for parental rights, and recommended the books to fight against the radical Marxists ruining our schools. But the left is not having a good time these days, Corey. I mean, they are able to offer token resistance, right? But when it comes to the state initiatives, we're winning on almost all fronts. When it comes to the federal side of things, we've been losing for quite some time, but we're actually starting to gain some victories. I saw a video yesterday of a teacher who was crying as she was taking down her lesbian, bisexual, transgender flag in her schools. So if nothing else, at least it seems as if DEI, critical race theory, the gender wang, at least on that front, we are winning massive victories and real change is coming to our schools because of what Trump has done. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's exactly right. And they're having total meltdowns. It's great. I've seen the videos that you're talking about and pictures and posts of what they're saying on social media. Some of them are saying we're going to still have these flags up in our classroom, but look, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. We'll see how that works out for them when there's enforcement of these orders to not have divisive rhetoric in the classroom. And at the end of the day, if you're focusing more on the basics, math, reading, and writing, we should expect those scores to improve. The school should be focused on math, reading, and writing. Parents want that on the left and the right, and independence. They want schools to be about education as opposed to indoctrination. And if the orders don't 100% fix all the problems, which there's going to be, there's not perfect enforcement of any law. We know that. We need bottom-up accountability too, to have families vote with their feet. At Accuracy in Media, we have done undercover journalism, finding in schools in my home state of Texas, they're still teaching critical race theory, and they admit it on camera. The administrators are telling journalists that they don't know that they're being recorded, but they're bragging about how they can skirt the laws banning CRT by calling it something else. It's a never-ending game of whack-a-mole. They're moving goalposts every step of the way. Obviously, the law does help by preventing the likelihood of that happening, but you still have rogue teachers behind closed doors doing whatever they want. If a parent gets a whiff of that happening, they need to be able to say, screw this, I'm taking my kid somewhere else to a school that's aligned with my values. And that pressure should incentivize the school boards to listen to those parents, to treat them as partners, as customers, and so that they have a threat of losing some funding, just how any other market works. When the provider has to cater to the needs of their customers, they do a better job. So they're going to focus more on education as opposed to politically divisive topics if they operate in a marketplace.
Well, Corey, this was a fairly comprehensive interview this morning, but is there anything that you think that we left off the table that we might have missed that you think is important for our audience to know?
Yeah, that Tennessee bill passed the Senate easily, 20-13. Governor Bill Lee's going to sign it. There was a clip that I posted on social media of one of the senators, Heidi Campbell, who said that school choice is, quote, a threat to the American dream. Guess what? She went to private school herself, and she sent all of her kids to private school as well. Another case of school choice for me, but not for the hypocrisy. She also said that Republican policies during floor debate is, quote, or I'm paraphrasing here, are the policies of dictators. I believe that might be an actual quote. And she even alluded to North Korea. Well, guess what? North Korea banned homeschooling. This is the opposite of school choice, what they have. If anything, forcing kids into a one-size-fits-all system and not allowing them to choose anything else and to have so much monopoly power controlled by the government, those are the policies that have authoritarian tendencies, not freedom of choice. They get it completely backwards, and the hypocrisy was just on full display in Tennessee as well.
Corey DeAngelis, he is a school choice evangelist. He is a Texan. He's fighting now for school choice in Texas. So if you guys are interested, make sure that you follow him over on x.com. Corey, thanks so much, and enjoy all the wins, man. Congratulations on everything. I think 2025 is going to be the best year yet for liberty and for school choice.
Absolutely. Let's keep winning. Thanks, Austin.
Thank you very much. Give him a follow again over on X. That's Corey DeAngelis. We're so grateful to have him as a regular guest here on the Wake Up America show. Where else do you hear such great news? Where else do you make such cool friends? But the Wake Up America show. Now, we heard the news earlier that Tony Martinez is going to be coming with us on the Wake Up America show's AP DC Liberty Tour. So if you have not booked your tickets for the AP DC Liberty Tour, you better get them, because I'm actually thinking we're probably going to be able to sell out the tour, which means Argentina is next. Listen, I'm thrilled to be able to do this stream live in the mornings, have such a wonderful audience, be able to hang out with you, disagree with you guys sometimes we get into fights, and sometimes we find that we are making our best friends here on the Wake Up America show. It's a positive community. It's a healthy community filled with good people, good patriotic Americans. And honestly, I'm just proud to be a part of this, because without you guys, this doesn't happen. Without Jam, without Quest Fanning, without Luke Sacker, Ofook, Mind Art, who gave us a $10 donation this morning, by the way, thank you. I haven't been pushing the bonus content and the monetization super hard this last couple of weeks, just because I've had a lot of other things going on, in my mind. So for example, tonight I'm going to Springfield, Missouri to meet with the Ozark Film Foundry to move forward the Battle of Athens documentary. We've got so many other things we're working on behind the scenes here on the Wake Up America show. So if you want to support our mission, our cause, we highly encourage you guys to become monthly sustaining members if you're not already. I see many of you in the chat already are. That's fantastic. You get a 20% discount at the shop if you do, and that means that if you want to go with us to DC May 1st to the 3rd for the guided tour by me, myself and I, then you get a 20% discount on your tickets, right? So the private dinner is already sold, but you still can get the merch package upgrades and join us for a live taping if you guys want on Friday morning before we go out and do all the fun stuff during the day. So if you're interested in supporting the Wake Up America show, maybe joining us in Washington, D.C., best place to do so whenever you're not hanging out with us here live in the mornings is to go to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Visit forlibertyshop.com, guys. Get yourself some coffee, some tea, support the show, support the network, because this is the future of the freedom movement on the media online as the legacy media is dying and the alternative media is taking over. Me, Culturama, Liberty Tonight, new shows that we'll continue to add. We will be the voices of liberty for a new generation. See you guys right back again here tomorrow morning. I will be a little bit dusty, perhaps a little tired, but I will be here on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Have a wonderful day. Love you guys. See you tomorrow.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
The trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.